There are lots of things that make Crazy Ex-Girlfriend special. It has an internal narrative language, a good balance of comedy and drama.
Yeah. And it's a musical!
The beginning of the show kind of draws you in with its stylized, exaggerated drama. And at first it could seem like just a cringe comedy, but the underpinnings of what the show really is are always there. Even before the show's biggest moments, the writing in Season 1 and early Season 2 already lets us know how. I'll elaborate. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a comedy, but not quite a sitcom, but it employs similar tropes and sort of lures you in with these tropes. In particular, it uses a lot of exaggerated behaviors for comedic effect or emphasis. As the show goes on, it often blurs the line between the stylized and sensationalized perspective of its protagonist and reality. But even characters' extreme actions played for laughs can have underlying issues to be addressed. But sometimes, instead of addressing something, a story will lampshade. Lampshading, in narratives, is to acknowledge a lapse in the story, whether a use of a trope or a plot hole, while failing to really deconstruct it further.
And by singing this reprise, I mean whatever, just don't think about it.
I mean, I only go to a few places, and they're all in West Covina. White Feather, Sugarface, Boba Place, Home Base, Paula's house, although usually it's just the kitchen.
It's a way for a story to wink at itself, to say, I know this is happening, don't worry about it, and then go on its merry way. So, lampshading isn't bad. It's fine, and also sometimes can be really funny.
Did Jet just die? You know, it was really unclear.
But due to its genre and its premise, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend often has opportunities to let certain things slide with the excuse of being an exaggerated comedy. But instead, in the early era of the show, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend engages in this almost anti-lampshading, undoes this, and takes things that it could reasonably handwave, and instead chooses to follow through. For example, throughout Season 1, Rebecca's impulsivity is a key point. Obviously, she moved to West Covina for Josh, who just happens to be there. From there, Rebecca is relatively unconcerned with her actions' morality or feasibility so long as they get her closer to Josh. Lying and bribing to get to camp, renting a party bus, etc. She's so determined to an almost cartoonish degree. And at first we might think, well, they're using her many years of high lawyer salaries to wave this away so that she can get into and out of wacky hijinks.
So that was what? That was like a $2,000 mistake?
Paula's lines here could have been lampshading in another circumstance. But then...
Paula, am I broke?
It's such a simple shift, but it indicates something bigger about the show. It's willing to reckon with consequences. Like, damn, isn't it so crazy that Rebecca is spending so much money with abandon for gags and to weasel out of things? Oh, she's actually broke now. You know, like, at first we laugh, yes, because she's so rich and she doesn't understand the value of money. But then, this wasn't just a joke, this is now something that has real consequences that change the show. Rebecca actually has to sell her house, downsize, and move in with a roommate. Another example is with Greg. Drinking is such an offhand thing in fiction, and also, frankly, in everyday life. Drunkenness and excessive drinking is very often played as either normal socialization or funny. Functioning alcoholic jokes are all too common. And throughout Season 1, Greg gets a few of these.
Oh, I don't leave when there's whiskey left.
Oh.
And this could reasonably just be a cute joke. But then, at the start of Season 2, we have this sobering, pun intended, scene. Greg's an alcoholic. And it's sort of this moment that the show even acknowledges as such.
But Greg's not an alcoholic.
Oh.
Yeah, I call that one.
Like, of course this is the pattern. What else were we expecting? And even though Santino eventually leaves for other projects, this plot is still taken as seriously as it can be in his final episodes, and his sobriety continues to be referenced in Season 4. Is it the most gritty and realistic depiction of alcohol addiction? Probably not, but it fits with the tone of the show, and it continues to be a significant part of Greg's arc. A wilder example is the writing with Trent, who very easily could have been a 1 or 2 time gag. Like, sure, Rebecca enlists the help of a random man she finds online by essentially propositioning him into being a fake boyfriend. This could have been played as ridiculous as it is, and then faded back into the background. But this decision has lasting consequences for the show. This does not fix Rebecca's problems in one episode at the cost of a few wacky hijinks. Trent will be used repeatedly as a mirror and a foil, and even has a major role in influencing the plot of the third season. The anti-lampshading also happens with Season 1 Paula. Throughout Season 1, Rebecca is scheming to get close to Josh in a number of convoluted ways, and she still manages to catch breaks, almost as though the universe is on her side in this quest. In this case, for example, lampshading in the writing might have been a character saying, "Man, it sure is convenient that Valencia is unavailable when you need her to be." Instead, the show anti-lampshades by revealing that, in fact, many coincidences and conveniences in Rebecca's life were actually being orchestrated by Paula all along.
That's right! I make yoga class schedules! There's no limit to where my reach is!
And then not only that, the show goes further and actually digs into what this behavior means for Paula the character and her relationship with Rebecca. And this conversation will be ongoing for the rest of the show. These are just a few examples, and I'm sure we could find more. But in this style of writing, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend clues us into it being more than what it seems on the surface. That with all its indulgence in jokes and tropes, it's still willing to engage with the ideas it brings up. I'm not saying the show does this perfectly. There are always plot lines or character arcs that could have been expanded on more. But overall, the show is extremely aware of the things happening in it and who they're happening to. Because this anti-lampshading principle can be applied broadly to the show itself. The show starts using familiar cliches, but ultimately becomes about subverting its initial premise. A girl who does crazy things for love. If at first it seems like we're supposed to laugh and cringe at Rebecca's actions, then the show says, yes, sure, but also this is a 4-part character study that examines the crazy, wacky choices she makes and why. Throughout the show, Rebecca will do a lot of things that showcase underlying issues to address, and seeing these earlier, smaller payoffs builds trust that these details of her arc will in fact be accounted for. So even the coy winks and fourth wall breaks don't come across as cheap or obnoxious because we know that the show is going to follow through where it counts. Tropes, exaggerations, are more often than not introduced in order to be deconstructed in service of the story. Even the title isn't exempt from being unpacked. And through these smaller payoffs, like the ones we talked about, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend also builds trust in this long-term subversion. Credit with the audience that, for the most part, if there are patterns in the writing, the show will address the implication of those patterns, all while maintaining a comedic tone, while showing us at the same time that comedy won't undermine ideas and characters. And so, when the show decides to have its more ambitious conversations, we, the audience, are confidently along for the ride.